Welcome everybody. How are you? How is everybody? It is episode 244 and it is Tuesday, June 7th, 2022. Welcome. It's been quite a few weeks since we last streamed, and that was because we had our 2 streams in May and then we had a few weeks off, and it was because May is such a long month. It's got that weird extra Tuesday in there. So welcome everybody, and thank you so much for being here and for coming back and watching and for being a part of the live chat if you're a patron. And for those who are returning viewers of the show and have been waiting anxiously for a new episode, we are finally up and running. So as you can hear, I've got a bad cold. It's not COVID. I've tested negative the whole time. It's just a cold. I don't feel great. But we are here and it's podcast day, and that's all that matters. So I hope that you're doing really well. It's good to see everybody. Amanda and Dagmar, Glenda's here, Biblio Knitting, Amanda, Charlotte, who else? Let me see. Osk and Suzanne and Charlotte just joined us, and so did Kelly and Dorothy. It's good to see you guys. Thank you so much for being here. So today, I'm not sure how long my voice is going to last for. I'm hoping that it'll be okay, but if it starts to give out on me, we'll just have to sort of cut our losses. I have a very, very big birthday next Tuesday, so I don't think that I'll probably do an extra stream next Tuesday, but if I am able to, the kids have portfolio reviews and they've got to be at the school and whatnot. So if I were to do something and sort of finish off this week's show, if my voice gives out, it would probably be at 10 a.m. next Tuesday, 10 a.m. Pacific, right after spin group. So I'm just kind of putting that out there. I may or may not do that, but it would be kind of fun to podcast on my birthday, even if it was just like a half hour, especially if we can't get through all the community participation this week, because there's lots to talk about because we've been off for 3 weeks. So, or 3 Tuesdays. It's not quite 3 weeks, but you can hear already my voice is acting up. So yeah, thank you so much, Amanda. Oh, I'm sorry, Dion, that you couldn't get the email and the link in the email to work. I'm sorry. Always, if you guys are having issues with anything, please go to Patreon, because if you go to Patreon, then you can, the post is right there. It's the first one, and you'll be able to find it, and that will bring you to the live streaming and get you up and running. Okay, so for May, I had asked you guys what you were most proud of in your making, and I asked you to post your comment over on Patreon, because trying to do it on Ravelry and Patreon and YouTube, it's too many places. So if we do it on Patreon, it's one place. It's where you guys access the live stream anyways, and even if you watch over in YouTube. So I did random number generator from all of the shows through the month, and Amanda, who's actually here today in the live chat, which is awesome, was who came up for the random number. So she had commented, "This is a great question for me. I tend to be hard on myself, and if someone asks me what I'm proud of, my first instinct is to try to change the topic or downplay what I'm doing. So I guess I would say that as a fairly new spinner, I'm most proud of each new skill I learn and each skein of yarn I create. Right now, that's my first 3-ply fractal that I just keep staring at. I'm at the stage where I look at the yarn I've made and I can't believe I've made it." That's wonderful, Amanda. Congratulations. So Amanda, if you could send me your your mailing address, and then if you could also let me know what your favorite colors are, that would be awesome, because the kids are going to make you a set of pony style roll legs, and I just spun up a set that they had made, which are super, super fun. They have all great colors. What is going on? No, go back. Sorry, you guys, just give me 1 sec here. And I'm really hoping that they'll make another set for you, and then you can spin them up yourself. And I actually, like I said, I just spun up a set. Dion, I fixed all the links. That's why I'm so distracted. I fixed all the links in the Patreon post, so I'm hoping that maybe you'll have some better luck with those if people are getting stuck on the links. So I just spun up a bunch of the Puni style Rolegs. They're actually there on my Lendrum. I did a core spun with a bunch of the Rolegs that they had made, and then because I was like, I don't want to make a bunch with the kids if they don't turn out. Like, I need to spin them and make sure that they're okay. So they look like cotton candy. They're really, really pretty. So I core spun them all, and then I coiled them, and I meant to skein the yarn before the show, but I totally and completely forgot. I'm obviously a bit foggy brained, so I will show that to you guys next time, and I'll post photos on the Slack channel in the meantime. Super, super fun. So I'll get the kids to make up some colors in your favorite colors. So if Amanda, if you could let me know what your favorite color is, that would be awesome. And yeah, you're so welcome. She says, oh my gosh, thank you so much. Of course, you're so welcome. Oh, thank you, Becca. So the links in Patreon are working now. Sorry about that, you guys. I'm out of practice. And then for June, if you could comment over on Patreon, the post is down below for the show notes for this. If you guys could go over there and leave a comment on the post, I just threw it in the live chat. For June, let me know what the hardest thing you've ever done in your making has been. And then leave a comment on the Patreon post associated with June's live streams. So that's like episode 244 and then 245, which will be next show. So let me know what the hardest thing is you've ever done in your making. I don't actually know if I can answer this. I was thinking the other day what some of the hardest things are that I've ever done. I think tapestry would be right up there because I've been really struggling with tapestry. It hasn't come easy to me, and I find it really slow. And some of the other, it's not that I don't like it, it just hasn't come super easy. And then what are some of the other things? Some of the sweaters that I've made over the years have been really difficult. And I think some of the hardest things that I've had to do have been like mending something that's either been torn or we had that moth thing about 6 months ago, and so I lost some socks to that, and I had a couple of sweaters that I had to mend. That was really hard. The making itself wasn't difficult, but the mending was difficult because of where the stuff needed to be mended. Dion says spinning cotton. Yes, Laureline, good to see you, catching it live for once in a very long time. It's good to see you. I hope you're not still homesick. I know you're still fighting, you're still getting better, but I hope you're at least able to work a little bit so you're not getting super, super far behind. So in today's show, so please go over to Patreon and answer that question and let us know. So in today's show, I've got some finished yarn to tell you about. I've been spindle spinning like crazy, so I thought I would just show you some of my progress. I've talked about this spin a lot over the last number of months, so I'll show you kind of where I've gotten to and what I've done most recently. And I did weave off all of my X's and O's coasters, so I thought that I would share those with you really quickly since they're all out of hand spun, and I had a couple of thoughts about that. And then the major progress that I've made over the last 3 months has been on sweaters. I don't know what to do with my woolen honey sweater. I'll talk to you guys about it, and then I thought I would show you the progress on my after party. So let's get into the credits, and I will see you guys on the other side. That's too bad, Laureline. You're getting far behind at work, but we'll have to deal with that tomorrow. Yeah, what else can you do? You have to look after yourself. Hi, Christine. Good to see you. She's casting to the TV from her phone. I hope that you're able to watch us. And Brittany made it in first time. She made it to a live. Hardest thing for her is starting something for the first time. So like spinning for the very first time. Destashing for an international move, that was hard. Yes, Amanda, I've talked to you about that. Yes, that was hard. Just hearing your experience about that all. Hi, Lee, good to see you. So in terms of making and working on stuff, I'll go to the big camera and I'll share with you the finished yarn. So this is a skein of, I don't actually know how many yards this is. I think it's about 750, maybe 800. The reason why I don't know is because I did the number of wraps as I was skeining it on my 2-yard skein winder. The problem is that I'm sure that it shrunk up a little bit in the washing and in the finishing process, and that I lost at least some yardage, probably a fair amount. And so I haven't reskeined it. You can tell it's the original skein because the old ties and everything. I haven't cleaned it up yet and reskeined it. Checked the yardage. So I'm not actually sure, but I'm hoping that I'll have some numbers for you guys next time, because right behind me here on this side right here, on my Magicraft Susie Pro right here, I have a second bobbin of these singles. So this is organic Polworth. I spun it at 24 wraps per inch, and I just used my Sukaplocky control card as I spun. You can see there's a couple of spots where it's a little bit over twisted, maybe a little bit less consistent, maybe a little bit thicker in spots, but overall I'm quite happy with how consistently this spun up. It drafted really nicely. I did pre-draft this. I don't normally pre-draft when my plan is to weave with something, but with this Polworth, it's been sitting in my stash for so long, and it's been wound really tightly into a ball of fiber. And I bought this years ago from Webb's. It was on sale. It was one of their like spring clean out sale kind of things. And I have 1.255 pounds. So I'm just going to round up and say it's 1.3 pounds. I'm not sure if I'm going to spin all 1.3 pounds of it as singles, but I did want to do at least 2 or 3 big skeins like this. I don't even think I can get it to skein up nicer. It's just so poofy. Look at that bounce. It's got a little bit of elasticity. I was hoping to minimize that, not completely, but at least a little bit. And then I fold it. So I did put it in hot and cold water back and forth. The cold water, I did put ice cubes in. And then on the final, I went back and forth 3 times. I did the same with the Hello Yarn singles from last show. So if you're wondering about the yarns and why I'm spinning this big project, go back and have a look at 243. I think that episode was called All the Singles, and I talked about this project in that podcast, so I won't kind of go over it again and again and again. But all of the singles are being spun roughly to 24 ends per inch. I'm going to start sampling at about 14 ends per inch. I might go up to 16, just because there are some slightly thinner spots in the yarns, and just see what I come up with on a plain weave fabric. But I also have in my stash, one of the things that I wanted to do this year was to really stash down my braids, and to really intentionally try to spin through some of this stuff, even if I only got half a dozen done. So thus far I've done Hearth, which was an 8-ounce spin, so 2 braids. Tofino Road Trip, which was also 2 skeins, 2 braids. It was 8-ounce spin as well. And I did 2 braids of the Hello Yarn that I spun each of them into singles. So I've actually done 2, 4, 6. I've done half a dozen already. So I feel like I'm winning this year, and it's only June. It's halfway through the year almost. And then the other braid that I had picked out to spin this year was this Northbound Knitting. Why am I showing you on the small camera? I can show you on the big camera. Was this Northbound Knitting gray merino, and I don't think it has a colorway. I think it's just numbered 3027, and this is she's poured the dye on it. And I had a second one in my stash, which you can see that I'm holding. So I went stash diving to find it because I couldn't actually find it. I looked and looked and looked and I couldn't find it. But as you can see, instead of the pinky red here, she's used the sort of foresty kind of limey green instead. But the other teal turquoise that's on both of these is the same. So my plan is I've got the 2 skeins of Hello Yarn, And then I'm going to spin up these two, but I'll combo spin these into one big bobbin. They're both gray merino, and spin singles. And then I'm going to decide which of the two fabrics I'm going to make first. But I'll report back because I need to actually get this spun. I may actually do this on my Ashford E spinner and take this with us. We're going camping on Vancouver Island, and I thought maybe I would bring this with me because I don't really have a knitting project to take, which I'll tell you about in a minute. So that's kind of next up. And then if I don't spin any more braids for the rest of the year, at least I did my, well, if I get these two done, that's 8 in 1 year. That's pretty good. So I have 2 more from Germany, elfin wool from Tina, that I would love to get done this year. And that would be 10. That would be a lot of spinning if I could get those 2 done as well. We'll see. We'll see. So thank you. Thank you, everybody. Becca says the yarn looks so squishy. Dion said it looks gorgeous. Thank you, you guys. Martha's working on making Tunisian crochet squares for a blanket. She's never done this craft before now, and usually just regular crochet, but it's fun. That's awesome. I don't want the camera to pick that up. Oh, thank you, Dion. She says, remember everybody to like. I'm making, yes, great progress this year. I'm making lots of yarn. So the plan was to make this year quite a heavy yarn making year, so that I would have some stuff to work on sort of into the fall for projects that I've kind of got percolating in the back of my mind. And this singles project has been in the back of my mind for a while. So I really wanted to make that the priority this year. And hopefully this summer I'll have some woven yardage. I would like to weave this on my Louette Spring. My Louette Spring is currently in use. So it's perfect because I'll just keep working on all of this yardage, keep spinning, and I'll finish all of the singles. I'll continue to finish them all the same way. So hot and cold. And then when I interrupted myself, and I didn't mean to, I don't like it when I do that. So I try to catch myself. But when I was finishing the singles and I was going back and forth between the hot and cold water, I put ice cubes in the cold water and then in the hot water. And the reason for fulling is because they're singles. They're 100% wool. I'm going to be putting them on the loom. They're going to be under a certain amount of tension as singles in the warp. I've woven a lot with singles now at this stage of my sort of career, if you will, quote unquote. And I'm not concerned about that. I just wanted to make sure that they had some ability to withstand some of that tension. But then when I put them into the hot water for the last time, I left them in that yarn in the hot water until it completely cooled. So when you put it into the hot water and you give that wool that shock, the scales all open. And by leaving it in the hot water as it cools down, it comes down to room temperature, which is generally for me overnight. The scales gently close and it makes the yarn, nice and smooth. So it doesn't rough up the outside edges. I don't thwack it. I barely snapped it. Very, very gentle. And it just keeps that. I've gone to all that effort of spinning it worsted, semi-worsted, where I do a continuous backward draw. For those who are new, this was spun continuous backward. And if you haven't seen me spinning singles before, I tend to spin them all roughly the same way. And I want to preserve that smoothness as much as possible. So that's what I did. And I left it in the water overnight so those scales could close right down. And I'll finish the rest of these yarns the exact same way. And then I hang them to dry, and I'm very careful about wringing them out. I don't sort of snap them and thwack them and do a lot of things with them. I actually generally will grab the bottom. I'll go to the big camera for just a sec for you guys. So imagine this is soaking wet, okay? It's like absolutely saturated with water. I put my hand in and I grab the bottom and I wrap the yarn around that hand and I wring it out, and I do that 3 or 4 times, and then I sort of very gently snap it just to get it back into shape, and then I hang it. That's it. I try to really manhandle it as little as possible to keep the skein as smooth as possible. So thank you, Charlotte. Just divine, she says. That's pretty yarn. Thank you so much. So that's how I do my singles. And there is lots of content on patreon.com/woolenspinning on spinning singles. And it's all linked in the index, which is linked in the show notes, which is linked down below. And I also linked it earlier in the live chat. So you guys can find stuff if you're looking for it. There is other content that we've done on spinning singles and how I do them. So the other thing that I've been doing, and I've kind of gotten a bit sidetracked with sweater knitting because, well, I'll tell you about it in a minute, but I sort of didn't have anything to knit and anything to work on. And we're going camping and we're going to be on the island for a week. And I've been kind of thinking about like, what should I take? Like, I don't really have anything to bring knitting wise. And I'll tell you about that in a minute. And so I'm sort of waffling between projects right now. And I don't really have anything that I'm really excited about and that I'm really wanting to knit. So I sort of thought, well, why don't I take this opportunity to just really make a conscious effort to really get dug in on my Cormo spin. So you guys know about this spin. I've talked about it quite a lot. I'm doing it mostly on support spindles, but I do have some of it going on drop spindles as well, because sometimes when I'm at soccer practice and I'm standing there, it's hard to support spindle when I'm standing, obviously. So I bring my drop spindles as well. And so I've been working on those. That's sort of, you know, packed away with our soccer stuff, and I take it with us when we go to the field every afternoon. But then when I've been looking for something quiet to do and I'm just sitting quietly and I could be knitting, I've been support spindling. So I filled up my, this one is by Yarn Spindles. He's located in Maine. He's literally capital Y, Yarn, capital S, Spindles, Yarn Spindles. And I've been filling this one up. I love this spindle. It's sort of a Pong style spindle. And I really like the shape. It's got a really nice spin to it. Not a super long spin time, but it's got a nice weight to it, and it goes really well. And then this is my Silly Salmon. I was talking to some ladies on the weekend when I was teaching for the Ontario Handweavers and Spinners Guild. I was part of the hand spinning seminar that they had this past weekend, and I taught this past weekend, and they were telling me that the gentleman who makes Silly Salmon, the spindle maker, he's having injections for arthritis or his back or both, and so he's having some health problems. So unfortunately, he's not making very many spindles right now. And then this one's my Woodland Handcrafts. There's a little owl in there, which is just so cute. I find with this spindle, it's a Pong style spindle as well. And I have to wrap onto the cop onto the shaft unbelievably tightly because this is so smooth. The wood is so smooth and so slick that it just starts to lift up. So I've really found that I've had to be very intentional about wrapping the yarn around the cop really, really, really tightly. And I've actually thought several times, and my friend Diana has totally given me the courage to do this because she modifies her tools and makes them work for her. I think I might take some really super fine grit sandpaper and actually just very, very, very gently kind of rough it up just a tiny bit because it's too smooth. And if I push on this, it'll just pop right up and off. I can even show you with this. It just slides right around. And you know, what ends up happening is the cop, you're so intentional about winding your cop, you're trying to do it really super tightly, and it just kind of all goes somewhere in a handbasket. So it's frustrating, right? So if I rough it up a little bit, I think it'll just give me something the singles something to kind of grab onto. This one is my Mirkwood. It's one of my absolute most favorite spindles. As you can see, it's very, very full. This is a Tibetan style spindle. And this one, I don't know if I can show you on the camera very well, but it just goes like stink. It's heavy, a little bit heavier than my other spindles. It's more like the Allen Berry in terms of weight. And you can see that the shaft is a little bit thicker. And I think it was Dion that actually shaved hers down a little bit to make it a bit finer at the tip. I quite like the tip. I find it gives me something to really push against. But I think it was Dion that said that she shaved it down a little bit. And then finally my Allen Berry, I just started this one. So what I've been doing is rotating between them. So I do a few makes on one, and then I put that down, and then I do a couple of makes on another one, and I put that down. Then I do a couple of makes on the next one, and I put that down. And it's slowly, what has ended up happening, if I can show you guys, I started off with a pound of fiber. This bag was absolutely chock-a-block, and this probably doesn't really impact, like it doesn't have the same impact on you guys that it has on me, because I look at this and I'm like, oh my gosh, the bag's almost empty. And you guys are like, oh, it's not, like, it's hard to see on the camera how different it is. But this was absolutely full, and I couldn't tie the top. And it was like I had to push the fiber down inside to like tie it. And now, not only am I towards the bottom half, this is actually like hollowing out. Like it's, like I'm getting there. I'm getting there. My pound sweater spindle spin is getting there. So I'm just excited to, you know, see that progress, that I'm actually like, you know, making quite significant progress. I do have quite a bit of the fiber in my drop spindle bag. So I know that a bunch of it isn't actually spun. But it's not that much, and a couple of spinning sessions and I would spin through it. So that's kind of exciting. So that's my big spinning project right now, besides my singles project, is my drop spindles, and just being really, really intentional about pulling them out and working on them. And then finally, for non-knitting related stuff, I wove up these coasters. I had made coasters, the same pattern. This is a pattern by Amanda Ratage, and I had made these in some other hand spun yarns that I had. It was a Luette 2-ply Romney yarn with my Herdwick bat from Katrina from her Fiber Club years ago when she still did Fiber Club. And I had so much fun doing it that I decided to throw it another warp onto the loom. I had done ochre gold kind of a color for the 8/4 cotton for the warp, because it's meant to be sort of like a rug warp, because these are coasters. So it's weft faced fabric what comes out, because all you see is weft, there's no warp. And then you just have the fringe of the cotton at either end, which is really pretty. It's really pleasing. Anyways, I decided to do a second warp, and I made it a little bit longer. I don't know if that was a good idea or not, but because I felt like I was weaving forever, but I did. And what resulted was 2, 4, 6, 7, 14 coasters, which is a fair number of coasters. I did mess up on one of them. I don't know if we'll be able to find it today, but I did mess up on one of them where I did 2, like it's 00, or it was 00, something like that. Anyways, oh, is this one? 00, see? There's 2 O's. It should have been OXOXO, and it ended up, I reversed it by accident. So obviously this one's mine. These were gonna be year-end gifts for the kids' teachers, but I'm not sure. In the end, I think I may actually save them and put them into the guild sale, because I have a couple of tea towels that I could give their teachers instead. And then in terms of the yarn, the blue was 2-ply Perrindale from years ago that I had spun when I first was coming back to spinning. It was chunky and thick and not very nice. I had put it in the guild sale on like a whim, thinking that maybe it would sell, but it didn't. It was an Aran weight. It was kind of a heavy yarn, and so that's the dark blue, and it's a very solid color too, like it was dyed just solid blue, so not super interesting to spin. And I remember thinking, oh, I'll just spin this up fast, but what I ended up doing was just spinning it thick and kind of ruining it. And then the gray, this gorgeous gray that sometimes looks almost orange, and it has like bits of sari silk mixed into it, and there's some sparkle in there. And then some of the other ones are completely gray, and there's very little texture. This was what my friend Sarah Elizabeth of Sarah Elizabeth Fiberworks called her fancy lady bats. So her fancy lady bats have all of this texture in them, but then they're usually against the background of something a little bit plainer. And in this case, it's that gray, and probably mostly medium wools, just from the feel of the spinning years ago when I did it. And then these really fun textures added in, mostly sari silk, neps. What else was in there? A little bit of sparkle. I'm trying to remember. I spun it back in 2000 and Oh, I don't actually remember now. I feel like it was 2017, maybe 2018. So yeah, they came out really, really well. And they're all roughly the same size, which is really nice. So they're about 4.75 inches by 4.75 inches, about. Some of them are a little bit closer to 5 and some of them are a little bit closer to 4.5, but they're kind of all in that range. So close enough that they can be given as a set. And then the only thing left to do now is iron them. I've already washed and pressed them. I've already washed them. I cut the warp apart, leaving about 3/4 of an inch of fringe on every single one. And then I washed it in warm water with a little bit of eucalyptus, and I left them to soak, and then I laid them out to dry. And now I do have to press them. I haven't done that. But it's pretty good, hey? Pretty fun. So those are them, 14 ready to go. So I probably will make 2 sets of 4, and I'll save them for the guild sale for in the fall, and then I'll keep the rest. So obviously I'll keep the one that's has the 2 O's. So the coasters turned out well, beautiful texture and color. Thank you, Amanda. Those are beautiful, says Amanda. They're lovely, says Dion. Thank you so much, you guys. Oh, that's too bad, Dion. She says, while I'm watching, I'm spinning some beautiful fiber, beautiful color, but it's spinning awful. That's too bad. I hate that when that happens. Oh. All right, so I've got some sweater progress to show you. So let's go to the main camera, and I'm gonna scoot over just a wee bit. I don't know what to do with this sweater. I have no idea. This is why I don't really have a knitting project to take with us on our camping trip. This is Wool and Honey. It's by Andrea Mowry. The pattern itself is great. Don't get me wrong. The pattern is great. I am just really torn about the sweater itself because it is coming out. I have gauge. It is coming out quite large, way larger than I normally would wear my clothing. And so it's got a lot of positive ease on it. I have knit, I'm not actually sure how many inches down the body I've knit yet. I think the pattern asks you to knit for 8 inches. I've done 4. It is cropped, so then you do the ribbing at the bottom, and then you've got like sort of swancho type, poncho type sleeves. They're not like full sleeves. But you can see that like if my underarm is up here, there's about 4 inches of knitting past that. I need some water. And it's just coming out so big. And I just don't know what to do, whether or not I should keep going and sort of on a wing and a prayer, hope that it's going to work out. It feels and looks really big. If you look at it at the back, it's just so big. Like I would take all of this out, and I would take out some of this length. I think why I'm pausing and why I'm feeling frustrated about it is because I've knit it 3 times now to this point, and it's a lot of knitting. Amanda was asking how does it feel when you try it on your own body? So if I show you guys, let me throw the needle. I've got this on extenders, so I can actually show you what it looks like. Part of the problem, just move Diana back a little bit. Part of the problem is that I don't wear really, really, really super baggy clothes. So this is, if I go back a bit, and we're at the awkward stage right now where it's like, it's like awkward, right? Like it's, you know, it's hard to tell. I don't really know, you know? Yeah, I don't know. I also wonder, you know, I think this will stretch out a little bit, the neck, because it started off being a bit tight, but because I've tried it on quite a few times, it's starting to kind of stretch out a little bit, and the weight of the sweater will pull down. But I would love to hear from you guys what you think in terms of like what it looks like, because it is pretty big. But if the weight, like if it's gonna hang nicely, that's not actually a big deal, especially because you can tuck it into the front, or you can kind of play around with like some different looks and whatnot. I do wear high-waisted jeans, so like if it came to here and it was sort of like a poncho style, so I just don't know. And it's so much knitting that to continue on and then rip out, like that's just not going to happen. If I continue on, then like I'm not ripping it out. So yeah, I love how mine fits. The ribbing is a few inches. Yes, the ribbing is quite a few inches actually, Brittany, that's a good point. And see, I love what Brittany's looks like on her. If you guys haven't seen photos of hers, if you go to Crux Fibers on Ravelry, if you're a Ravelry user, she has photos there and like it's just awesome. Hers looks amazing. So I don't really know. I just don't know what to do. It's like it's fairly big. Yeah, thank you, Jackie. She says it looks fine. She's it's hard to tell how much the needle is changing how it hangs. Exactly. That's the problem. Looks totally okay, but I like my clothing to be loose fitting. Amanda says it looks good. I would finish it. It does look cute on you, but I don't think you're going to be happy. Thanks, Dion. I like your honesty. Have you ever seen Rachel wear that much positive ease? Even though it might look fat. Yeah, you know, it's true, Charlotte. Like I don't generally wear that much positive ease. That's why, because a lot of it's my body shape. Like it doesn't actually suit me that much. Like having really big shapes don't necessarily suit my body really super well. Whereas like my sister-in-law, she can wear those really big shapes because she's quite a bit taller than me. And so she sort of has the height to be able to like lengthen her out. I'm actually not very tall. So I will sit on Wool and Honey. I will wind the second skein of yarn and I will take it with me and I will decide what I'm going to do. And in the meantime, Sam says you could send it to me. It's my birthday next week. Totally. Lee says same. Thank you, Brittany. She says it looks fine. I do think it looks really cute, but if you don't like it, then I might say that if third time isn't the charm, it might not be worth a sweater for you. Totally, Biblio knitting. I totally agree. The thing is that the yarn, okay, so when you have the sweater on, this is Disdero Ranch. This is is it the Kopaka? I always forget. It is, yeah, it's the Kopaka. It's the camel color. It is like next to skin. It is so lovely. So even if the sweater's not perfect, like as soon as you put the sweater on, you just feel so good because the yarn is so awesome. So yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it, Christine. She says, because I'm long torso, to be happy with it, you're going to have to fiddle with the pattern. I've already fiddled with the pattern so much, which you guys know, and I have to fiddle with the length of it too. So I'm going to have to kind of figure out, anyways, part of me is like, it's just not worth it. There's just part of me that's like, just cut my losses, rip it back, call it a day, find a new pattern. But in the meantime, this is Afterparty. So it's actually almost done. I have to weave in ends. I've got to sew up the underarms, and I obviously have to weave in ends here. I've got ends that I have to take care of. It's obviously not washed. It's not blocked. The body is quite large, but I think it actually works because even though it's got a lot of positive ease, this seems to be the theme, the yoke ended up coming together quite nicely, and I did change the gauge quite significantly. So this is knit in Cascade 220. This colorway down here is one of the Heathers colorways, and actually I don't think I have it right here. I don't know why Ravelry always signs me out now. It never used to, but now it does. Okay, so this color, this gorgeous kind of tealy, or sorry, not tealy, this gorgeous kind of wine purpley color is called Razzleberry Heather. It's number 9692. And then this teal color up here, which I had actually originally bought for a sweater for Nora, and I have more than enough of both of these yarns left over to make her something, is called Aqua Haze, and that's 9634, and it's Cascade 220. So this is Cascade 220 Heathers. And this one's just the regular Cascade 220, that's the solid color. And then I had to modify the charts quite a bit. So this chart is supposed to be double high. You're supposed to do this 1x1 gorgeous color work in here for another, I don't know, 6 or 7 rows or something. And I ended up only doing half of the chart. And then I did the same thing with this chart. So this chart is supposed to go into, I think it's chevrons. And I had to cut that off. So once I did this first little marking, kind of to mark the center of the chevrons here, I had to do the decrease row because I could tell that the yoke was getting too deep. So I just kept measuring the yoke as I went, and as I knit up, as I got closer to where I knew that I needed to finish it off, because I still needed to add the short rows. So in the pattern, the short rows are added down here, and then they're added again in here, and they're added again in here. I only did short rows at the top, so I kind of did my own thing. I did the decreases the way that they're written, and then I did short rows and then the final set of decreases. So I still did all 4 sets of decreases. I just moved them around a little bit. And then I did the 2x2 ribbing at the collar and Bob's your uncle. It's done. So after all of that and worrying about the body and thinking that I was going to rip it all out, and you know what the funny thing is, if I had read the pattern more closely, there actually were decreases in the body that I completely missed. So that would have fixed a lot of my problems. But I didn't read it properly, and it's because we were in the car and I was driving the whole time. I find if I have a paper pattern in front of me, I'm way more accurate in my knitting, but because I was on Google Drive, we were physically driving, and I was just glancing back and forth. That's when I make mistakes. So, yeah, that's Afterparty. So I'll finish that off, and hopefully next show I will have a finished sweater for you. I can show it to you guys really quickly on me if you would like. You're right, Christine, these colors are not usually in my color palette at all. Funny story, I actually have my rain jacket that I wear, because it rains so much here. My rain jacket is actually purple. It's this color. If you guys look at the painting on the wall there in the corner, that purple right there is the color of my rain jacket. So even though I mostly wear neutrals, I do actually have a couple of things in my wardrobe that are colors. So kind of funny, hey? Yeah. So this is the sweater on. I think it turned out really well. So the sleeves are a little bit short. If I were to go back and do this again, I would make them longer, but they actually fit quite well. They actually have like the right amount of ease, and because I always pull my sleeves up anyways, after I tried it on the first time, I was like, actually, that's kind of perfect, because I'll be able to pull them up and they won't drag in anything. So it ended up being okay. So I worried for nothing. So hopefully we'll have it actually finished, and I'll have some modeled photos. The last 2 sweaters that I've made, my Lunenburg and my Yastava, which I still have to fix, because remember I had that button band issue? I still haven't fixed it. I should take that on our trip and I should fix it. And the one sleeve was a little bit shorter than the other one, so I have to rip out that sleeve and match them up. I have to do an extra chart repeat. I don't think I ever told you guys about that. On my Yastava, the chart wasn't right on my sleeves, and I didn't do the right number of sleeve repeats. So there we go. Fashion show today. Yeah. Busy show. So, oh, thank you so much, Dion. The color red, the reddish purple looks really good with your hair. Thank you so much. Growing up, I was always put in purple and green, which I think is why I don't like purple and green together, which is funny that sweater is teal and purplish red. But yeah, and I was also wanting to say really big thank you to Amanda, because she had suggested, I had asked her about Afterparty and about making it, and it's by Astrid Troland, by the way. And I had said to her that the yarn that I wanted to use wasn't the right gauge, and I was going to do some math to figure it out to knit it in a heavy DK light worsted. And did she think that the charts in the pattern were doable to do that? And she's like, yeah, absolutely. So thank you for that, because I probably wouldn't have made it. And you can see how the bulkier yarn and how it knits up in the yoke and stuff, it's not quite the way that the original pattern is meant to look. I would still like to go back and actually get gauge and actually make the original sweater, because I really like it. But I wanted to use up this yarn as well. So yeah. All right. I will meet you guys on the other side, and I will see you. Let's do some community participation. All right, so I just have to find, so this is all very fancy, but now I have to like move things around a little bit. So I can't see chat for just a quick sec, so I'll see if I can, yeah, I can still do it. Okay, so chat's back. Thank you, Christine. She says, looks fab. My new raincoat is a tomato red, and I'm knitting a hat in mustard custard yellow, which is a color I'd never have chosen before the presence of natural silver highlights. I like that. Christine, you put that in, natural silver highlights. That's awesome. It's kind of fun. My mom has started wearing some different colors because her hair started changing color, and my hair is changing very, very slowly. My hair is changing color. And it's been kind of fun to pull out some different colors and wear some different colors and work outside of my previous color palette that I always want to work with. So, all right, in the community, we have just a ton of things going on. So have a quick look over this chart and see if there's anything that might interest you. We have our Zero to Hero, our spindle spun stitches. Zero to Hero is where we go from fiber to yarn to finished item. Spindle spun stitches morphed from spindle spun summer to a year-long celebration of spindling and making with our spindle spun yarns. And we've got our ongoing luxury fibers along, our ongoing natural shades along. And then our year-long study on Radnor is going on right now. So that will be coming to a close at the end of December. And we have a dedicated Slack channel for the Breed and Color study, as well as a dedicated channel on Ravelry for you guys to share. So hopefully you'll find somewhere to be able to interact and find some other people that are excited about the things that you're excited about. And then a grassroots movement was from Becca, from Rebecca, for the sock color study. She wanted to look at socks and knitting color, how we can spin for color in our socks and use our socks as sort of like mini swatches to see what we can do and what we can make. So that is going on. And people are sharing in the general channel and the Slack channel, and then also in the Ravelry group, and there's a thread for that. These aren't live links, the blue writing there. But it just gives you a snapshot of kind of what's going on. Book club. We're up and running with our current book right now, and I've just read book 1 of the book. So the first 15 chapters? Becca, are you still here? Becca runs book club for us, and we are reading Free Food for Millionaires by Min Jing Lee, and it's broken up. The book is broken up into 3 books, and so for the first part of June, we're reading book 1. So if you're interested in learning more about book club, yes, 15 chapters in book 1. Thank you so much, Becca. So I've actually already read book 1. I'm really enjoying the book. It's very similar to some other stuff that I read a few years ago, and I'm enjoying the raw, sort of just the raw honesty of the main character. Like she's just she's very confused about her life and what she's supposed to be doing, and coming out of university in the 90s, and it's set in the 90s at where the book begins. anyhow, in New York, I would highly recommend, if you would like to chat with us about that, please hop in under the hashtag books channel in the Slack channel if you want to join that discussion. And like I said, the book that we're doing is called Free Food for Millionaires by Min Jin Lee. So that's what's going on in the community. It's a lot of stuff. So Rose shares with us, this is some breed and color study from previously, and you guys might remember and might recognize the Shetland breed and color study. This is those colors. Rose said, I only have one piece of roving left to spin and I needed to free up some space on a bobbin, so I'm applying 2 of the white base together. So for our Shetland study, we had the Murret, the gray, and the white base. So this is the white that she was spinning up. She's using her Ashford Elizabeth 1 to spin as she is winding off on these bobbins. She actually likes the idea of doing this, and they do a nice job of keeping a smooth bobbin without peaks and valleys, and then she's playing on her Lendrum. Isn't that yarn beautiful? I love those colors. I still enjoyed this study the most of all the studies that we've done to date, I think. I think the Shetland, I had the least expectations. I knew I would love the fiber, and I loved the colors. It was a really fun study. This is from Joanne. This is part of the sock color study. I'm not going to read all of this because I'm losing my voice, but I was going to read the first little bit. So she says at the beginning of the year, she decided to try and knit a pair of socks out of hand spun every month for the year. The weather where she lives in the Canadian prairies, she's in Manitoba, was really bad the first few months of the year. So she ended up knitting the first 5 of 12 pairs by the end of March. So she's a wee bit ahead of schedule. So much work, says Jackie. You're absolutely right. I also spun every day in February, so got quite a few skeins of yarn spun up. Oh, sorry. Spun up then too. She dyed all the fiber for her challenge and tried to step out of her comfort zone and experiment with different color combinations. Although a couple of pairs are more, quote, neutral, just because she thought she should have some in her wardrobe. I don't know, Joanne. I don't see any neutral colored ones, but maybe the bluey ones and some of those like purple ones that are a little bit more subdued. But the socks that are directly above my head, the blue ones, and then the ones next to them that are those bright kind of pinky reds, oh my goodness, those are beautiful. And you can see that she's got more bobbins there and that they're ready to ply. So amazing. Brittany was saying that she just finished spinning Labradoodle blended with wool and alpaca. It's so lush and fluffy, but yes, dog is pretty stinky. And Jackie says, just the thought makes me shudder. You guys know how I feel about Shiangora. I really struggle. Yeah. Dion says, I love her idea of neutral. Totally. Love those socks, says Sam. This is from Taziana. This is really, really inspiring. And I love this idea of the 100-day project. If you guys haven't heard about 100-day project, is where you work very intentionally on something for 100 days. So Taziana's been working on her 100-day project, and she has a bunch of yarn to show us. So save the few days her carpal tunnel was exacerbated by her fall, which I'm really sorry to hear about, Taziana. I hope you're healing up quickly. She showed up to her wheel every day for the past 100 days, most days early in the morning before she got on her scrubs and headed to work. I'm pretty sure Taziana's a nurse as well, same as me, and lots of others in our community. Some days I have had a half hour to spin, some days I had more, but the mere act of showing up that many days has not only technically improved my spinning, but did wonders for my mental health. I learned so much through just practicing and experimenting and through the resources shared here. Some of these spins were big projects, some were just bits of fluff I wanted to play with, but hooray for 7,958 yards that were added to her stash over the last 100 days. So I'm probably not allowed to say which one's my favorite, and I probably am supposed to say that they're all my favorite, but because they are all absolutely beautiful yarns. But if you see over in the photo, the second one down on the right hand side, there's the gray skein flanked by so there's the white, gray, and then that It's got the grays and the light purples and the light camel color brown, and it almost looks like singles, and I'm not sure if it is singles or not. I think it's actually plied. Anyhow, oh, sorry. I'm fiddling around with things. I was looking to see if it was plied. Anyhow, that purpley gray pinkish one that's flanked by the light gray and the dark gray skein, I love that yarn. Beautiful. Dion says, I love seeing all her gorgeous yarn. The 100-day project is so motivating. I totally agree. Love the 100-day project idea. It looks like agate. Yes, Becca, it totally does. Rebecca says, I like that one too. It looks like agate. Maybe that's why I'm drawn to it. And then the photo in the bottom middle with those 3 yarns lined up next to each other, those yarns are beautiful too. Just amazing, Taziana. Thank you for sharing. This is from Amanda. She's been inspired by the spinning singles that me and Vicky have been doing with her Raya wool that she dyed last summer. After dyeing the fleece, she had drum carded it into bats without separating the undercoat from the outer coat. She had originally going to spin rug weight, but decided that something closer to tapestry and upholstery weight would be more useful for her. I don't usually spin for finished singles yarns, so this has been a nice challenge. So far, I've spun up a madder bat, and I am currently working on a pomegranate bat. I have some 6-1 NM wool in my stash that I want to be able to be worked interchangeably with. So she used that as an idea for the yarn diameter that she was aiming for. The vital stats are 435 meters out of 81 grams, giving 5.31 to over 1 NM yarn. The way of measuring yarns and everything has to do with how many, correct me if I'm wrong, Amanda, but the NM, it all has to do with the metric, the meterage that you can get out of a certain amount of yarn. And it's all of the measurements that they use for measuring yarns for weaving. So for anybody who's kind of just dipping their toes into the weaving rabbit hole, all of this stuff like NEL, NM, all of these counts that they use. NEL is for linen, and then NM is another measurement, and there's different measurements for cotton and whatnot. It just helps you to get an idea of kind of where the yarns fall. And the more into all of this you get, the more that if you're trying to spin to replace another yarn, you can start to sort of use the commercial yarn statistics to start to do that in your own spinning. Yeah. It could stand to have slightly less twist in places, but otherwise I'm quite happy. The wave, I assume, is from the underlying wavy nature of the outer coat, but if anybody has any other ideas, I would love to hear them. And Becca did respond later and say that yes, hers did that, and it's funny because my Polworth did it too. Dion says it's Greek to me. Effectively, the grist is the linear diameter, yarn numbering, and yarn count. Thank you, Amanda. It's a rabbit hole if you would like to delve into it. It's incredibly informative. I am just starting to dip my toes into learning all of that stuff, and I hope that I can start to explain it more clearly so that I can help you guys to understand it as well. But I've been reading like crazy, and there's a lot of information out there, but it's hard to navigate through it all. This is from Florence, and she just finished knitting a sweater for her husband and her son, and she posted it on the Slack channel, and it is the most adorable photo ever. So I'm hoping I can share that with you guys next time. So Christina and I had the best time last weekend. It was so lovely to have the company of like-minded friends. Christina spun a mountain of mohair, made her first bat on my drum carder, and helped me make my first ever yarn on the spindle. She took her tasting plate home to have a play. I made this yarn and am beyond excited. The first one is very short dyed rabbit that I blended with Dorset down. The next one is a 3-ply Corriedale lamb. There's a 2-ply Romney, a 3-ply Romney, an English Lister lamb blended with Texel, a 3-ply alpaca blended with Dorset down, a 3-ply estate clearance, and a 2-ply Corriedale. Isn't that awesome? That plate of tester yarns, tastings. Wouldn't it be fun if we all got together as a whole community in person, face to face, and we did like a mystery spin along, and I put like, you know, maybe 10 or 11 little 1 ounce, you know, maybe ½ ounce little bumps in the bag, and we all spun each one and tried to figure out which one was which. Wouldn't that be so much fun? do a little taste testing, spin testing. Anyways, Florence, beautiful spinning. And this is from Christina, who was visiting with Florence. This is a long post that came to mind when I was thinking about what to post for the Most Proud Of project, and thought I'd share it here as well. I taught myself to spin from a book on a funny old wheel and proceeded to spin a fleece that my dad gave me. I think the fiber was from a colored Perrindale ram, who had too much attitude and was very dangerous. I brushed the fiber thinking that one of the two hand cards I had was a spare, so just used one like a brush, catching my knuckles constantly. So she thought that the second hand card was just an extra. So she thought she was only supposed to use one. It didn't occur to me to wash it until it was all spun. My friend saw what I was doing and asked me to spin and knit her a jersey. I felt so honored that she believed I would be able to. I wasn't so sure myself, as I'd not really made anything yet, but I agreed and did my best. The pictures were taken yesterday and today. The jersey is 35 years old and a 2-ply. I only had 3 bobbins and wouldn't have known about 3-ply anyways. So it's a 2-ply, sorry. I didn't know enough to worry about consistency or how long it would take. It was enough that it was turning into yarn and having my friend cheer me on from the sidelines. She planned to wear it with leggings. I used yellow 5mm plastic needles to knit with, and it's been and has lived all over the world, but finally my friend has returned home, and yesterday out of the blue she sent a pic of it having a bath in preparation for the winter. I'd forgotten about that jersey so long ago, those early days of making without overthinking it, and fun times with my friend, and felt kind of overwhelmed to see it, and even more amazed that I'd made it. It feels very special. It's just a jersey, but also so much more. Isn't that amazing? So amazing. Thank you so much, Christina, for taking the time to share that story with us. And the sweater's pretty awesome. It's pretty cool. I love that your friend is still wearing it. It's so special. This is from Diana. This is a fiber blend I'm working on for a sweater. I made a whole bunch of bats and have been blending like a fiend. Before I declared an end to the blending, I decided to seriously sample. I made 2 large groups of sister bats. The sample below is a marled yarn with 1 singles from each grouping. If you zoom into the unwashed yarn photo, you will see the 2 singles. I'm thinking that it works. I like the look and the feel of the fabric from the yarn. So she's done her knitted swatch, which is over there, not over here, over there. And then that's the yarn. Isn't that incredible? Beautiful. Dion says, I love that story and the journey. I love that this sweater had been all over the world. I guess her friend travels a lot. So it's no wonder she felt overwhelmed. And this is from Sue. I'm trying to review up my spindle practice again. I've been working intermittently on some fade sets from Hilltop Cloud for at least the last year. Here is part of the second braid ready for plying, and the 3rd braid started on my favorite spindle by Cynthia Haney. Beautiful. That looks amazing, Sue. Your spinning is beautiful. And this is from Mary, over 1,400 yards of fingering 3-ply on organic Polworth. It hopes to be a cardigan someday. It will be, Mary. That looks awesome. I love this little skein down here at the bottom. It looks great. They all look great, but that little one, I like little skeins. I like the look of them. I always think they just look so awesome. And I think this little one down here is chain plied. I might be wrong, but it kind of looks like it is. And this is from Dorothy. She's been playing around with textured yarns, which is why I have the super coils on my Jumbo Flyer on my Lendrum. She's been really wanting to learn how to do textured yarns, and we've been working on an inquiries for the last couple of weeks. So we were working on cocoons here, and that's why I have coils on my wheel, because we've been doing that on Saturday mornings as part of Queries and Explorations, which you can find on Patreon. It's super cool, Dorothy. And she was doing more cocoons this morning during spin group too. And this last one is from Barb. I know you can relate to the thrill you feel when your block design works out just as you imagined. This is organic natural color cotton, cotton napkins. 8-2 cotton at 30 ends per inch. Yippee. Doesn't that look cool? I love the block and the borders. Oh, looks amazing. I love seeing what Barb is working on. She is so talented. So I am officially losing my voice and I'm kind of running out of steam. You guys can probably tell I'm kind of so thank you so much for being here today. I hope that you had a really good time and a good hour. I'm so happy to have been able to spend it with you. I know that because we only have 2 live streams, we do the first and the third week of every month now. I know it doesn't feel like as much as before, but I've actually found it a little bit easier to keep up. So it's definitely been the right move for me, even though I miss you all and I want to be able to do more. It's just not the season of life right now. So I have to accept that. And sometimes I just have to accept that it is enough and that it's okay. So thank you so much for being here. If there is a extra stream next Tuesday on my birthday, I will let you guys know on Monday. There will be a post that goes up, but stuff to look forward to. There's a Maker Morning tomorrow morning at 6:30 Pacific, 6:30 a.m. Pacific. So tomorrow morning, if you're wanting to sit with some like-minded people and knit and spin and share what you're working on, we'd love to see you there. The post will go up on Patreon today with the Zoom links for that for the morning. And we've got the Wool Circle next Monday. I had to cancel it yesterday. I didn't have a voice. I wouldn't have been able to stream. So we've got True Worsted coming up on Monday next week. So I hope you'll join us for that. Thank you so much, Amanda, for wishing me the well wishes. I really appreciate it. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your week and a great weekend. If you're wanting to connect and there's anything, please just post in the Slack channel and be sure to tag me wellforpearls_admin. And then you'll be able to find me. So thank you so much, you guys. I really appreciate it. It's so good to be back here. And if I don't see you next week in the live stream, I'll see you the week after. And everybody else, I'll see you in the Wool Circle. So until then, happy spinning, everybody. Bye.